Hello everyone, I am Conquering History Games, and welcome back to Kaiserreich Progress Reports on the channel. I'm going to be reviewing the Kaiserreich, and now there's Ottoman Empire stuff, but basically all the Kaiserreich Progress Reports that have been coming out since, oh, I'm so sorry, I just realized I'm recording with the tip jar there. No need for that, it's not a live stream, but anyway, I'm going to be going through the Kaiserreich Progress Reports that have been coming out regarding China since I think last November. Now, a lot of the information in these progress reports has been modified as time has gone on. So I'm not gonna be explaining in each individual progress report what has been changed since that one came out. I'll talk about the changes when we get to those progress reports in order for there to be a minimum amount of confusion. Also, a lot of these progress reports can be rather detailed at times, and a lot of them are not about the state of these Chinese countries when the game begins in 1936, but are instead explaining the alternate history lore of these countries. But I think it's worth going over them so that we can understand the situation when we get to 1936 and the update happens. And also, I just think that Flame Fang has done a terrific job. I've said this for years, actually. I've said Flame Fang is great, and his work on the Chinese Kaiserreich has been fantastic. So we're actually going to be starting here 10 years before a Kaiserreich game begins in 1926, where we're going to talk about the Northern Expedition. So we're going to mostly be looking at maps here, starting with the beginnings of this Northern Exposition. This is some exposition on the Northern Expedition. So first off, let's get our bearings here. We have the Kuomintang in red down here, Sun Chuanfang in yellow, Wu Peifu in the blue, Zheng Zhulin, the Fengtian guy. He's up here in the northeast. West of Beijing is Yan Jinghan, and in the green here, and then sort of in pink, is Feng Yujiang. All right. So, what happens is the Kuomintang's National Revolutionary Army starts heading north in order to attack Wuhan and Nanchang, with of course the long-term goal being to get to Beijing. The northern factions here are weak because they have just stopped fighting recently, and the central government in Beijing has basically no legitimacy anymore. The foreign powers, meaning non-Chinese powers, are kind of conflicted here because basically they don't know who's going to be the most exploitable here. But like they've dealt with the warlords before, whereas the KMT, which is short for the Kuomintang. Please ask questions in the comments below, and I'll try to go into details about this if you need to. But just throwing that out there. So the KMT is a mix of nationalist Chinese under Chiang Kai-shek and socialist Chinese under Wang Jiwei. The Americans prefer Chiang Kai-shek as a leader because they think that he could, what's the word I'm looking for here? He could suppress the more radical left-wing tendencies of the KMT. I might have to double-check this as I go through the progress reports again. I've read them before, but it's been a while. But I think that the KMT is going to be the only faction that's going to be able to go radical socialist. Every other Chinese faction has to stay center or go right. So meanwhile, the Japanese are most concerned with their own interests, namely having Zhang, the Manchurian, underneath their thumb, but he's been getting increasingly autonomous. So they kind of hope a little bit that the KMT will be able to suppress him a little bit. Now the Germans only see one thing out of this KMT march to the north, and that is more syndicalism. And now it's going to enter China. Obviously, the Germans do not like syndicalism, although we could get into the whole, didn't they smuggle Lenin into Russia? But they've intervened in Russia, and they saw what happened in France and things like that. So the KMT is being backed by the Commune of France, speaking of them. And there are also veterans, presumably exiled veterans, who fought for the Bolsheviks in Russia, who are also part of this army. So the Northern Expedition defeats Wu Pifei and takes Wuhan, and this alerts the German Empire that this is a serious situation. Now, Wuhan is actually itself made up of 3 different cities. Let's see here. So there's this incredibly detailed map of the Hankuo center here. So you have where is it? Yeah, we got Canyon City, which is on the west side of the Yangtze River. Up to the north is wait. Hold a second. It's just such a detailed map. All right, over here is Wuchang City, and then Hanyang City's here, and then Hankou is to the north, right? Yeah, Hankou City. So you have these 3 cities all along China's Sorrow, the Yangtze River here. So, Wuchang City here is the only one that is still standing against the Northern Expedition, against the forces of them. And so this is when Germany decides to intervene. The siege is being prolonged, which Chiang Kai-shek does not like because he thought it was going to be a quick victory. Meanwhile, going back to the other map. Meanwhile, Nanjing, which was their goal in the east, gets captured pretty quick, which is significant because... excuse me. Wuchang is more significant, though, in many ways, because that's the birthplace of the Jinha Revolution, so it's an important propaganda piece that has to be delivered. So Chiang Kai-shek tells the foreign powers that they have to take their gunboats out of the river. But Germany actually starts using its gunboats to deliver food to the garrison, claiming that they're just delivering mail. And Germany is able to successfully call Chiang Kai-shek's bluff, and Chiang Kai-shek figures, okay, I can't escalate the situation or else the Germans are going to commit. There's a nice article here that's written, The Incident on the Yangtze. It actually writes out what happens. It's pretty cool. It says here, the German colonial administration, Tsingtao, has already denounced the Cantonese attack as well as the ultimatum presented by General Chiang. It defended the actions of the gunboats as an attempt to deliver letters due to the foreigners trapped there. Many are reluctant to believe that fewer than 10 foreigners in Wuchang are due quite so much mail, or that such a display was necessary to deliver it. But you should definitely read all of this. So it's at this moment that Chiang Kai-shek shifts his focus, and he leaves subordinates in charge of the siege. And meanwhile, he joins up with the forces in the east near Nanjing and starts heading up towards Nanjing, because that's a really important city to have, because it was the old southern capital, and it could also be good for propaganda. But he took too long. The Germans dispatch 2 forces to the south, one of which attacks the Kuomintang's provincial capital at Guangzhou, so you can see that attack right here in the south. Sorry I can't zoom in on this anymore. While the second one moves down from Qingdao through Zhejiang province, they have a fight in Jinhua in early 1927, where the National Revolutionary Army of Chiang Kai-shek fights Sun Chuofang, who is the warlord of the region, but he's being supported by the Germans, and Chiang Kai-shek decisively loses. So, because the Kuomintang's provincial capital has been captured, and because of the defeat in the north, desertions start to happen throughout the ranks of the NRA, National Revolutionary Army. So there is just absolute chaos. Chiang Kai-shek is held responsible for this, and he is then assassinated by a subordinate, allegedly for revenge. in revenge for his earlier elimination of competing conservative ideologue Hu Hanmin. So this was not like a syndicalist or something, but somebody else who shared his ideology, who he saw as a potential threat to the leadership, being in the leadership. So then Wang Jingwei, who's in charge of like the left syndicalist branch of China, they flee, either going to France or out to the Baratia commune in Italy. Not Italy, excuse me, India. Some go to Yunnan in the west, others hold out. But by February of 1937, the last NRA forces have surrendered, and the Kuomintang activists retreat into the countryside to ferment rebellion from there. So key differences from the timeline that also occur in this progress report. Number one, there is no Soviet Union because obviously the Soviets lost the Russian Civil War in the Kaiserreich timeline, so you have France instead supporting the KMT, but they're not in as good a position to support Beng Yujiang, that's the pink one here, his Gominjun, and so he's never really able to get a more significant foothold than this. Also, internationally, Germany has, whereas historically the British and Americans were reluctant to get themselves involved in China, Germany doesn't have very many obstacles like that. Of course, they're coming off of the win in the First World War, almost 10 years earlier by then. So they're very, very solidly cemented as the major power in the world. Also, there was the Shanghai Scramble that happened a year prior to these events, so there were already forces in the area. So there's a precedent for them to act, and logistically it's also much easier. Flame Fang describes this as mission creep, which I think is a great way to describe it. So on October 10th is when Wuchang falls. But, you know, I already explained how the rest of it goes, so it doesn't really matter. And then Zheng Zongchang is replaced. When he moves from Shandong to the front line, it historically created more issues for Sun Chuanfang's armies than they solved, etc., etc. But here he is replaced. His replacement with well-trained and equipped Weltkrieg veterans turns the tides of the battle. Though the German forces are small in number, the opposing southern forces were notably under-equipped and poorly provisioned at the beginning of the expedition. I keep saying exposition. And small but professional forces had shown themselves to punch far above their weight earlier in the warlord era. And finally, another major change is that Chiang Kai-shek dies. I'll just read this last paragraph here. Although this is still enough for him to play a major role, meaning that he's just in charge of the military ring instead of being the KMT's actual leader, likely would have still catapulted him to his historical standing. He never has the opportunity to eliminate the party's left-wing elements early on. Chiang's death consequently deals a mortal blow to the KMT's right wing. Its left wing enters the Northern Expedition stronger and exits as the organization's sole politically coherent component. There we have it. That's Progress Report 72. It's my first time doing one of these in a while, so let me know how it went, and I'm going to try to start working my way through these at a reasonable pace. So I'll see you all in Progress Report number 73. Give me some feedback, and you have yourselves a wonderful day. I'm Conquering History Games. Bye.